Well, I know Omar might like to tell a story tonight as well.
Yeah,
So
well, yeah, we did. He did mention that Omar's here somewhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can see him.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hello, hello everybody.
Yeah. Hi.
okay.
Well, I'm wondering
Right.
if we should start with sort of checking in, just a sentence or two, like we did yesterday.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to start, Lucy?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Why don't you start?
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, as you can see, I'm back in the tent here, storytelling tent in Marrakesh. Um, yes,
Really?
this is a photograph. In fact, if I move to one side, we can see Norman Perrin was telling tales during the Guinness World Record attempt that everybody loved so much. Yeah, so yeah, I'm really happy to be here. It was lovely to meet people yesterday. We had a slightly different group of people, and it was really nice to connect and to hear that everybody's seems to be bringing back some Bahja. Yeah, so that's my more than my one or two
Yeah, it's
sentences.
difficult to get through customs.
Yeah, they just don't get those things.
So Eleanor, why don't you and Ron go next? Just
Okay, well, we're now recovered from the cough that everybody seems to have brought back, and getting back into something that resembles normal life, whatever that is. And the cat is glad we're back. And we told her she was very lucky she lived here because she's very fat and plush. And I said, if she doesn't behave, I know where she can go.
Oh, that's
She
great.
made it. I don't know if she'll visit us or not.
Yeah, well, she wouldn't survive 10 minutes in the streets in Marrakesh.
I don't know. I don't
Well,
know.
they look after cats.
They do. And the
No, I'm
cats,
thinking of the motorcycle
well,
whizzing by.
the cats have got incredible instinct about avoiding donkeys, tuk-tuks, motorcycles, and just people rushing.
And they
They
have 9 lives.
and they do, and they don't seem to be skittery. You
No.
know, our cats would be hiding under things all the time.
Yeah, no, they're
Yeah,
pretty.
we bought some cat food.
It's
And
good.
then we found on one street there was a big, looked like a 50-pound sack of kibble with a scoop in it that
Yeah,
one of the
that.
merchants had bought, I suppose, and people were helping themselves. So that was a nice feeling.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that. That was really nice. I've not seen that before. Imir, would you like to go next?
I'm in a good place. My knee is up and down. I'm still using my stick, and I'm now in Italy. And I was worried about. I had to be airlifted, not airlifted, wheelchaired onto the plane and off, leaving Marrakesh. And then I was fine because I wasn't doing anything. So for some reason, 2 days ago, it's not as painful. I don't know why, and I don't know what I've done. So fingers crossed that I don't need surgery. So
Yeah.
I'm here to do some writing, and I'm translating some of my stories into Irish. So it's freezing cold, but I'm in a good place. So it's
Yeah.
just lovely to be here. And forgot all about last night. It was my intention, and then it went out of my head. I was thinking it's next Sunday, but it's not. So anyway, it's just
Well,
lovely to be
Oh,
here.
there's the cat.
this is a more select group. So
Oh, and indeed, I
we're a
didn't
bit
want to
more
say that,
safe.
Lucy.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd leave that to you.
I'm just going to introduce you to my cat while she stays around. So this is Ollie.
Oh,
This is
Hi,
our
Ollie.
cat. Okay. So
Well,
we've
I'm
got
staying
another
with
one. We've got another younger one called Smokey Joe after the boxer, and Hattie, who's the dog, and we all live together. So this is Ollie, and she's
Oh.
13. She is. So,
wow.
Oh, very
Good.
nice.
hello, hello, hello.
So, Mike Faculty, would you like to check in next?
Yeah, I'm much the same as last night, but even a day further forward, I'm getting well again. And I was taken through Marrakesh Airport in a wheelchair too, but that was because Ahmed was used it to let me and Paul jump all the restrictions and get through really quickly. None of us needed a wheelchair. We did that the day before. We'd had a thing about needing a new boarding pass, and we need to get new seats. None of that happened. He just took us through, talked to people, and lo and behold, we got straight through and we got our originally booked seats. And it was an absolute marvel. I mean, I was messing him about during the week because I didn't know I could get phone calls on my phone, and I was hearing a phone ringing and think, well, that can't be me because I can't do that here in Marrakesh. And he always managed to catch up with me sooner or later, and he did an absolutely marvelous job. Sorry, so that wasn't really so much about me, apart from just picking up on Emma's thing about the wheelchair through the airport, even though mine was totally unjustified, apart from cutting through.
Well, that probably explains why I saw this row of disabled people that weren't able to get onto the plane. I'd wondered why that was. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I was very impressed at the good, because I only decided at check-in. It was Maria Gillen said, go for it, because I thought, well, I'm going to be able to walk onto the plane, but I wasn't going to be able to push a bag at the same time.
Yeah.
They were lovely, and then it was the same in Dublin. I mean, and again, everything was rushed through. So it
Yeah,
was
and of
really
course-
nice. I mean, I would only do it if I had to. I didn't need to do it coming to Italy.
Yeah, but of
But
course you
just
wouldn't know how long the walk is from passport all
exactly
the way
it.
to the plane. So it's actually quite short, but you wouldn't know that before you were
That's right.
there. Yeah. So Mike Rust, would you like to check in next?
Good evening. Yeah, hello everybody. It's nice to see you all. I couldn't make yesterday because it was my 70th birthday. Well, 3 school years and 10, because I don't like the word 70, to be fair. And so I walked to the top of the local hill, which was 1,500 feet.
Good.
It's called Caradoc. Because when I was 60, I said if I was fit enough to get to the top of Cadair Idris. Cadair Idris, for those of you who don't know, is the second highest mountain in Wales. But if you stay the night there, you come back mad or a poet. And I always thought that that was a good place to go up. So I wasn't doing much after that, apart from having a couple of pints of beer and going to sleep, basically, which is what I did. So it's lovely to be here. I've had a couple of meetings since I got back. Lucy and Sim, who Sim is the Get a Word in Edgeways creative director. And so I managed to get them together, and they had a long chat about what were the plans for the future and everything else. And this morning I met Noel Sweeney and Jim Ball on a Zoom meeting looking into podcasts, because we wondered if it would be an idea to have a podcast where people could sort of throw in a healing story or a story of their country or something. I just figured if we had 101 storytellers from 33 different countries, it might be the basis of a podcast. And so we were looking into that and going forward to seeing what we could do with that. And apart from that, we've just had an east wind here in the UK for the last week. And that's, you can blame Vladimir Putin for that because it comes from Russia. And I've just been cold. I'm not sure if I would have been cold anyway, but there's a word, I don't know if some of you will know and some of you don't. It's called nesh. And nesh is an old English Welsh word, which means thin-blooded. It means that you feel the cold, and if it's used for horses and for cattle and sheep and things sometimes, it means you're not gaining weight, you're just nesh, you're sort of just shivering all the time. And shivering all the time has been a good description for me since I got back. So I know there's other people in the country who say that's minus 26 or it's minus 3021 or something, but it's just, I've just felt cold. Anyway, so that's what I've been doing or not doing, as the case may be. So,
well, let's hope you stop feeling nesh soon.
yeah, so do I.
Temperature improves.
But the sun's come out today and that's cheered me up a bit. So.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Tony Baloney. I like saying that.
Yeah, funnily enough, I'm exhausted. I think I had 2 hours sleep in the last 48 hours. I was at the world's biggest magic convention over the weekend in Blackpool, and I arrived at Manchester Airport at 3 in the morning yesterday to discover I had no passport. I'd lost my wallet, so I had to try to contact the embassy and argue with Ryanair to get on the flight. But I got home, and my wallet has been recovered and is coming home tomorrow. So yeah. Well, by a magician, but not quite by magic. But So yeah, I've had I arrived in Ireland at 7 o'clock this morning, and I had to drive across the country to tell stories in a school. And yeah, after this, I'm probably going to go to bed. So if I fall asleep in the middle, it's because yeah, I haven't had much sleep in the last couple of days. But it's been great. I mean, I've really loved the festival. It was a wonderful experience. Absolutely fantastic. So that's
Well, thank
that's
you
all.
for staying up to join us. I'm feeling very glad that you're able to do that. Be with us. Thank you. So I'm not sure if we should go to Evita or if she's very busy with baby. She was here last night. So maybe Evita, are you able to check in or not really? No, I think not really. I don't know if she can hear us. Yeah, not
She's
not
shaking
at
her
the
head, I
moment.
think.
No,
Yeah.
she's saying no. Yeah. Yeah. So Mike, my husband, would you like to go next? And then maybe Omar and
Yeah.
Waleed?
So I'm in England at the moment. I have actually been back to Marrakesh since the festival. Lucy and I have been playing tag, going back and forth between us. Yeah, we had a very good session last night, I thought. I just wanted to thank those people who've contacted their local media. We've had some great coverage. Those of you who haven't yet, to encourage you to do so, even if you don't usually, because it's a great story and it's still within the, particularly for local media, local papers and local radio, it's still got still current. What else was I going to say? The end of festival questionnaire, for those of you who haven't completed it yet, we're so close to having the 50 that we need. So just a reminder on that. And yeah, we collected some very useful feedback last night. It was a larger group, but I think this will be very interesting. And you know, it may be that it will work better. It's more of a focus group. I think the way things are shaping up. There was a consensus last night to spend more time on chatting and feedback and less on stories. I don't know, don't necessarily have to do the same thing today, but just sharing with you that was how the group felt collectively. So thanks, everybody.
Great, thank you. And Omar, would you like to check in again?
Yes. Hello, everybody. Hello, Mrs. Lucy and Mr. Mike. Hello, everybody. Happy to be here with you again. And very happy to participate in the Marrakesh International Storytelling Festival. It was one of the great opportunities in my whole life, and it was like an experience that I gained as a storyteller. And after the festival, it was like a kind of depressed, because, you know, after we have a lot of experience, a lot of talking with storytellers, but then we have just normal days, you know, but we still have memories in our head with the storytellers, and we keep in touch with a lot of storytellers, and we can see some of them right here with us today, and really excited to share a story with you today. That's all what I want to say. Thank you so much to you all, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Waleed, I don't know if you're there, if you'd like to check in. Might be busy with the cafe at the moment.
Is there.
Hello.
Great.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Waleed.
I'm glad to be here again. So also I have a short story for you.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, let's have that now.
Okay, John, do you
Now?
want to just check in?
So I go
Or-
first.
Well, I'm still here. I'm
You're
still
still-
alive.
Okay.
I had an MOT at the doctor's the day, and they of course have to test everything with various liquids, but immediately I passed my MOT, and I'm allowed to live for another. I've got a certificate saying I'm alive for another year,
Fantastic.
which is very positive, I thought. And, no, it's all good. It's all good.
Good. Great. Okay, well, Waleed, shall we just go ahead with Waleed's story if Evita's
Okay.
not?
Should I go?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
it's
then
a really
Omar,
quick
and then-
story and very short. So about a cat, it's called Jilali. So one night, Gilali found a stray cat outside his house. It was black, with bright green eyes. He gave it food, and as he turned to leave, the cat spoke, "Meow, be kind, and luck will follow." And the Gilali froze. A talking cat? He thought he was dreaming. So the next day, he helped an old woman, and he carried her basket to the market. So that evening, he found a gold coin near his doorstep. So every time he helped someone, something good happened to him. Soon, he became the richest man in the village. But one day, he became greedy and ignored a beggar that night. So the cat returned and said, "Kindness lost, luck is gone." The next morning, all his gold had disappeared from the day, and Gilali never ignored kindness again. And that's it.
Excellent.
Great. That's lovely. Thank
We
you.
could go straight over to Omar then, couldn't we, for a tale?
Great. Do you hear me well?
We hear you excellently.
Okay, so it's time for story, ladies and gentlemen, and all assembled company. Welcome. I do have a story from Mr. Tafi Thomas. This is his book, Tafi's Coattail. I don't know if you know Mr. Tafi Thomas. All of you. That's great. So the story goes like, once upon a long time ago, there lived a king, and the king had his wife, the queen, and the lad, his dear son. So the king, he is a little bit old, and this land is a little bit clever. And after a while of age, you know, it is hard to see that the king died, unfortunately. So the lad became the king, and his mom, the queen, say to him, advise him that all the people in this land would remember him by the first decision he would make. So he is a clever king, and he started thinking of doing something that is never done before him. And his advice of his mother was to create the king's own storyteller. So this is his job. The new job was the king's own storyteller. So, and after like many years, his mom, the queen, as well died. So he became alone in his queen in the palace. After many days and many months and many years, he became alone, and he could not sleep. So he advised, he asked for all the people, or in the all around the globe, to come, all the storytellers to come and tell stories for him. And all around the globe, all the storytellers came and tell stories one by one. And the first one tell the story, and it was not good enough. The second one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one, like 100 ones, and no one could have satisfied his needs. After that, he had an idea. So he said to himself, I need to do something so that people came and tell me a story that I need to satisfy my need, because he cannot go to sleep after his mom died, because she used to tell him the story every night before going to bed. One day, one of the gardeners, he was a very old man and very wise man. He went to his palace, he went to the diwan and said, Your Majesty, would you please give me an opportunity to participate in this occasion to tell a story? I do have one story to tell. And he said to him, yes, please tell me a story. And he told him that story. And he said to him at the end of the story, You are closed. You are very good in your story, but you still need something in your story. Go and practice it the next day. The next day, the following day, he practiced more. The third day, he practiced more, and he got not satisfied his needs. And he said to him, go and practice in front of the mirror. And he would that for many times. At the end, he went and he practiced and practiced and practiced. And he'll tell him the story. In the middle of the story, the king fell asleep. And the old gardener was like very scared. I thought that he would be excited about my story, and now he fell asleep. So he ran to his house very scared. It was like a minute, and the guardians came to his house and knocked the door. Come, His Majesty wants you to be in the palace right now. And he bring them to the palace. Your Majesty, I'm very sorry that you fell asleep. I thought that you are getting more excited about my story, but I don't know what happened. And he said to him, no, thank you. Because all this period when my mother died, I've never heard a story that the way you told me, because you told the story just like my mother used to be, told me the stories. And by this, he gave him the title, the king's own storyteller, and he said to him, the job is yours now, old gardener. And by this time, he became the king's own storyteller, and he lived happily ever after till the end of his time. And this is the end of his story. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Omar. And by an amazing, I got that story from Duncan Williamson. Mike's probably heard Duncan tell it as well. And but when I sat in that corner when I came back to Morocco and sat with Haj Ahmed in Cafe Clock.
Yes,
that was the story I told Haj, and he told me the King of the Ants in return. So thank you for that. That reminded me of that moment. Thank you. Beautifully
this is
told.
the first time I told the story, by the way.
But it's beautifully told. Beautifully told.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
And both you and Waleed just gave us a taste of being back in the cafe. So where we're sitting in our chill, we do like the taste of being back in the cafe.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Right. Well, John, do we want to invite anybody else to tell a quick story, like a 4-minute story, before we move on to feedback?
Anyone got a 4-minute story?
Mike. Hey. Unmute if you can. Great.
I think I have. That's
Great.
right. The other thing the new king did was he took to going down into the marketplace, disguised, so he could hear what people were saying about him. And he loved it because all the time they said, oh, this new king, he's so clever, he's so clever. Then he started hearing bad things. And the people were saying, oh, he's tight-fisted, these new laws of his. And he called in his chief judge and said, what are these new laws people are telling me about? And the chief judge confessed and said, to get more money in, I've been making up laws and fining people. Well, you can imagine the young king was really cross. And he explained sort of to the chief judge that he shouldn't do that anymore. Well, I say he explained, he chopped off his head and took all the money away from him. It was only fair. But then he found himself needing a new chief judge. And so he kept on going down to the marketplace. And the word got out that he was coming to the marketplace in disguise, looking for a new chief judge. And so Nasruddin was walking through the marketplace, and on his shoulder, he'd got a bit of fishing net. And the new king saw him and said, what on earth are you doing? And Nasruddin said, what do you mean? I'm just in the marketplace. I'm just, doing a bit of shopping. He said, no, but you've got fishing net on your shoulder. Why is that? And Nasruddin said, well, you see the turban, you see I'm now a learned man. I'm a Bahja. But when I started out, I was just a poor fisherman. And I'd wear the net to remind myself I'm just a poor man, even though I'm a great judge and a hodger and everything now. I'm just at heart that same poor, humble fisherman. And the king said, I want you for my chief judge. I need you for my chief judge. And so Nasruddin is made chief judge and he's dispensing justice. Then one day, one of his friends came into the court and said, Nasruddin, you're not wearing the net that you used to wear every now and then. You know, Nasruddin said, well, once you've landed the fish, you don't need the net anymore. And that's the story.
That's
Thank
great.
you, Mike.
Just
Right, so I've got a little story if you'd like to have a look at it. So there was a sailor, and the sailor, he had the call of the sea. And the call of the sea means that when you see the sea, you must be on it. So he came home and he wasn't expecting to do much. He had a couple of days off. And the one thing he wasn't expecting to do was to fall in love and get married. But he managed to do it all in 1 week. And if there was one thing that was going to keep him on land, instead of taking him out to the sea, it was this beautiful woman that he'd married. So he bought a house, and the house, it needed a garden. And the garden was there, but it needed a fence. So he said to his wife, he said, look, I'm going to have to go back to sea because that's what I do. And I'm going to take my ship out and I'm going to come back, and that is going to be our lives. But we're going to need a garden which is enclosed off. So when the baby comes, the baby can't get out of the garden. You've got a safe space. And she looked at him and she said, when the baby comes? And she said, yes, we're going to have a family, aren't we? And she said, well, I'd like to have a family. He said, good then. I've arranged for the fence. The fence is going to be 20 yards. It goes round in a circle, and I've got the fencers to come, and it's £1 a yard. So when they come and ask for the invoice, it's going to be £20. And here's the £20 that you can pay. And so off he went to the sea. And this young lady, and her life had been turned upside down, but she was completely happy. And there she was. And all these guys came up, and they put a fence around the back garden for her, exactly 20 yards. And they turned round and said, right, here's the invoice. It's for £40. And she said, £40? I thought it was £20, £1 a yard. And then they said, yes, they said, it's £20 for this side, but it's £20 for the other side as well. So that's £40. Oh, she said, well, come back on Saturday and I'll arrange to get you paid. So they came back on Saturday and she came in and there was a £20 note on the kitchen table. And they said £20. I thought we agreed £40. She said, yes, exactly. She said, there's £20 for one side. Just turn the £25 note over and that's £20 for the other side. That is £40. So anyways, so when his sailor came back and they sat down and they had a bottle of wine and she told him the story. And he looked round and he said, not only did I marry the most beautiful woman in the world, I married one of the cleverest as well. And exactly 9 months later, they had a baby, but that's a different story from a different tale.
Ah,
That's great.
nice one, Mike. Anyone else? Before we move on
Eleanor.
to
Eleanor and Ron.
You're muted, Eleanor.
Bottom left-hand corner, or if you
Somewhere.
put your cursor on your own photo and then click on
This machine's just causing problems. We know where this button is. It's running away from us.
Won't respond to your left finger, but only to your right finger, and I don't know why that.
We're pushing the unmute, and
Well,
nothing's happening.
it's just how it's going south of the border.
Yeah. We don't talk about that.
I will talk about it. Now, this is not a traditional story. This story I found in a collection of oddly modern fairy tales and fables from the Weimar Republic, edited by Jack Sipes, that anthologist of anthologists. And it's called a fairy tale about God. Now, God, had done a pretty good job creating the world, and he was happy with everything he'd done, and he thought he could just relax. But he heard a loud noise outside the gates, and it was from the people down on earth. They were very unhappy. They were very unhappy with their king. And they decided to send deputies to talk to God and find out why he had done this thing to them. Well, he said, I don't know anything about kings, but they were persistent. So finally, he had St. Peter bring them in, and they all filed in front of God on his big chair. And they said, God, we're very unhappy with our kings. They are a nuisance. I didn't create kings, said God. Oh, God, I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. And God said, well, I'll call the archangel. So he called the archangel and got out a book of nuisances. This was the book of nuisances God had created in case people were being a bit bloody-minded. So the archangel went through the book, flipped through it, spent all day going through the book. The mosquitoes, poisonous snakes, quicksand, all that sort of thing, and nothing. He brought it back to God. He said, there's nothing in here about kings. And God was going to dismiss that deputy of people, the deputies, because he couldn't find anything in his books about inventing kings. But they wouldn't go away quietly. They set up a big clamor outside. And finally, he agreed to see them again. They came in and they said, we're not happy with your answer. So he called the archangel. And the archangel came over, and God said, go get that big book with, the diseases and nuisances that I visit upon people if they aren't behaving well. So the archangel spent 2 days going through that book and came back and said, God, I could find nothing about you inventing kings. And God said to the deputies, you see, I didn't do it. Go away. Get out of here. They wouldn't go. They protested at the pearly gates, and finally he let them come back in again. You're really being a nuisance, he said. But I have one more place I can look. And he sent the archangel off to the 12 volumes of all the plagues and nuisances and anything nasty that could be given to the people down below on earth. And there were the ice storms and the tornadoes and the whirlwinds and the tsunamis and all that. And those 12 volumes, it took the archangel a week to go through them. He couldn't find anything about kings. He came back and said, God, there's nothing about kings in here. God called the deputies back in, and he said, listen, I had the archangel go through the 12-volume set of things I inflict on the earth, and there's not one word about kings. I did not invent kings. You invented kings, and you are going to have to solve the problem yourselves, the problem of bad kings.
Yes. And that could be a completely different tangent.
Why would I tell a story like that right now? Ask me where I live.
Thank you, Eleanor.
Yeah, good. So, John, is there anyone else here who would like to tell a quick story?
I don't know.
No,
I mean, shaking her head. Tony, are you shaking your head, or are you going to want to do a 2 minute?
To be honest, I'm 3/4 asleep.
Yeah,
I'm not going to tell a story.
I wasn't expecting coherence.
There you go. You wouldn't get it.
Right. Well, let's just let's go through. Actually, I just got to show this. If this I picked up off the floor just now the program to the 2023 festival. which was rather nice as a coincidence. I just stood on it, and but well, I mean, it had fallen out of a drawer.
I just wanted to, I'm not sure if this isn't a story, but I just wanted to share with people about, last night we were talking about how the spirit of Bahja has just carried on. We've taken it home, and some people have reported how they've been able to spread it to friends and family and, their neighborhood. And I didn't tell many people this, but while I was in Marrakesh, I was talking to this really old man, and I was saying, so what is this about Bahja? How come, there's such a strong feeling of Bahja in our storytelling group? And he said, well, it's because of the Bahja man and how much he loves gold coins. And you've got gold coins everywhere. And I said, who is this Bahja man? Can I meet this Bahja man? Because I've never heard of this before. He called him Rajul Bahja. And I just thought, this is really strange. So anyway, he took me into the souks, into this tiny little shop. And in the back of his shop, he rummaged around and he warned me this man was very, very small. And he handed me this tiny, tiny little man. And he said, there's quite a few of these little Bahja men. I'm going to let you take one back to the UK. So I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this, but no, maybe you can't see it. Yeah, I've got a little coin tray here. Don't know, can you see that? Can you see the coin?
Yeah, it is, but it keeps disappearing into your background.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you can see, but there's a coin on there, and there's this little Rajul man. Oops. I don't know if you can see, he's kind of reaching out for, can you see? He's very tiny, but he's kind of reaching out for coins. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So he's really greedy. And if we keep feeding him with these golden coins, then apparently we'll just keep having Bahja all the time. So just to let you know, I've got a whole load of coins. I ordered too many, and I'm going to feed this guy with 2 or 3 coins every single day. So just to let you know that.
Well, I think that's ideologically sound. Right. So let's have some feedback on the festival but good, and let's mix up the positives and negatives all in one lump rather than do all the positives first. And then last night we finished on what people didn't like and that kind of
and it's just to encourage people that we want good things as well. We do want the bad things. Well,
it would be nice if it all came in one lump.
Yeah, and then because that will help us. It's helpful to give a positive as well as negative things that didn't work so well for you, so that we can improve. Yeah,
we can try and improve.
We can try and improve. That's true.
Utopia is something to reach for. It would be a disaster if we ever got to utopia, because what would we do afterwards? Yes. Anyway, Eleanor and Ron, let's start with you.
Okay, well, I'll start. I'm writing something for our national newsletter called Embracing Chaos. And I started with our decision to come, and given how old we are, and Norman Perrin bugging us, and Ron's brother died just before we made the decision to come, really. And we came back on the train and sat up for 27 hours from Ontario to Nova Scotia. And we said, if we can do this, we can probably go on an overnight plane across the ocean. But we didn't know quite what to expect. So we were in a state of constant uncertainty. And and saying, everything will be okay. What's the worst thing that can happen? Everything's going to be okay. And I'm preparing documents called what to do in case of a mutual disaster. And our wills aren't, I was going through great angst before we went. So the biggest angst was adjusting to WhatsApp. I got it and I couldn't use it. And I was panicking for the whole week before we left. And finally, we got the instructions to post our video of coming in. So we did that in the Montreal airport. I was very pleased that we were able to do that. And then we got to everything worked out. We got to the airport. I finally saw a message in WhatsApp from Imad. It said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm in the front of the airport in a wheelchair with an orange hat." And there was a phone call I'd missed and I didn't know how to call back on this software. So the guy in the wheelchair takes my phone and calls Emmett back. And the next thing we know, there we are, we're in this van. And Ron said, "We're getting in a van with people. We don't know them. Where are we going? It'll be all right. It's all good."
I wasn't panicking.
He wasn't panicking, no. We do this for dramatic effect. And so the next thing you know, we're in the van and then all of a sudden we're in the Medina, walking into this whole wonderful world and down this dark alley with a big wooden door. And it opens up and there we are in Riyadh Spice. I've never seen anything so beautiful. And they were so welcoming. They just, I didn't ever want to leave that place. So what was most challenging for me was climbing all those stairs. And, I lost 5 pounds. I really should come back. I felt much more fit when I got home. But there's so many things on offer. I did manage to go through the schedule and find things I knew I certainly wanted to see, like hear Richard Hamilton talk about his book. And that was truly wonderful. But I think the little conversations that you have in between things with people is very, 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 very special. The little stories that you share just in passing, like when I walked in and there was Evita handing me her book. I didn't know this wild looking woman with years and years and years of dreadlocks in a turban hanging down. I thought, wow, I haven't seen anybody like this in a long time. And then it just kept going and going and going. And then all the names were coming at us. And I think I was in like a deer in the headlight for days and days. But I didn't get to as many things as I might have. And I only did one story for the Hikayatathon, and I felt a little guilty about that. But I was in such a state of confusion and panic, good confusion and good panic. I can't. I hope I live another 2 years so I can come back.
Well, I'll say
you will be welcome. You will be welcome. And Mike, that little sentence you wrote about when you went into Riyadh Spice and what you saw, Mike will have that as a review.
I couldn't believe we were in such a place. You got anything to add?
Well, I just think it was such a bonding experience, and I miss the people that they're people we met before only online, and we get to see in person, and people we'd never met before. And I love the experience of getting together with all these people, and I miss you.
Yeah, I do too. I spent days with the bios, as I said, putting them into a document so I could just sit there and have it on my lap and review all the faces and the names and the wild tuk-tuk ride with Baden Prince.
Our tuk-tuk broke down. Heard that story in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
He was here last night, Baden was. Sad that he's missed you.
Yeah, I think we bonded with him instantly over that.
Well, I think before that.
We met him at the opening night dinner. We were sitting next to him at the opening night dinner. And There's just something quite magic there.
Oh, we met him before that.
Yeah.
We guided him back to Riyadh Spice.
Oh, right. Yeah, because he
The
was in
very,
Riyadh
very
Spice,
first
isn't
time
it?
we were there.
And I think when I heard the musicians, I think that the first day on the second floor in the Story Cafe, something just, I was a belly dancer when I was young. And
Oh.
all of a sudden, there's that music. And the old body remembers. The brain says, you can't do that anymore. But the body said, oh, yeah.
Oh, it's brilliant.
So
Thank
I
you.
just love the music. Oh, and the parade.
Yeah, no, that was amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
As one of our people that are less mobile,
Yeah.
what could we have done to improve life for you?
I don't know. Well, I'm less mobile in that I was getting a lot of exercise. My doctor says I should be out there walking all the time. But I'm happy just to, oh well, there's nothing we can do about the low divans.
Yeah.
They're hard to get off. We need those extender seats they put on toilets.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I had my ways of getting out of those. Just kind of roll off and push yourself up from the front. No, that's what life is there. So you adjust.
She managed to get
I
around
did
all right.
very well. I really did
Yeah,
very
I
well.
always come home from Marrakesh fitter than when I went out. So
Yeah.
I would say, aside from the cough, I was stronger. And once I got over the jet lag, I was sleeping quite well. Yeah, I think that walking through the Medina is such a rich, stimulating experience.
well, thank you both. Thank you, both of you. Thank you for coming. See you in 2 years.
Well, we hope so. Yeah.
Who are we going to next, Lucy? Who
Uh,
wants to?
who would like to share feedback next?
Well, I think Tony should before he goes to sleep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
If you can get
Yeah.
a couple of coherent sentences out, what you
Okay.
liked and what you didn't like.
I loved it, so I'm going to start with the negative to just get it out of the way. The world record gave a great focus to the event, and it also gave us a great opportunity to get times to tell stories. But there were so many people that wanted to sign up, and it was difficult in the beginning. I got the feeling that in the beginning it was disorganized, and it took you a while to kind of get it in the full swing. And I think if that had been organized 24 hours earlier, people would have signed up, and it would have been easier for the organizers too to know who was on every half hour. So I think somebody needed to take that in hand, to make the sign up easy. And also, I know from experience from having broken a world record for a solo long speech, we actually had the audience scheduled as well as, well, there was only one speaker, but we had the audience scheduled. So everyone in the audience knew the times that they had to be in the audience. And if we had been told, we need you between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock to just sit in the tent in the morning, we could have planned things very easily so that you wouldn't have been sending out messages saying we need people in the audience. I think people needed to be told it's part of the world record attempt to make sure that the audience is there as well. And I think if people had been scheduled, you would have found it far easier to keep the tent full. That's just a bit of feedback about the world record, but I think it gave a great focus, and it was fantastic to be able to speak in that square with all that noise going around you, and to look out and see snake charmers and things like that. So that was wonderful. It was fantastic to get the opportunity to speak in the schools. It was intimidating because of the language barrier, but it was also fantastic. It was a wonderful experience, and it gave to someone like myself who's new to the whole scene. I didn't even realize there were festivals around the world. I was there and I felt I was part of it because I was being sent out to tell stories, and that was wonderful. So that was a real big plus, doing it in the schools. I loved the gold coins for the food. It gave us plenty of flexibility in where we ate. And 3 out of the 4 places played ball and fed us extremely well. And so big thanks to them. They really made it. It was lovely to be able to just go into a place and you'd meet somebody and you could sit down and chat. And a half-hour lunch became a 2-hour lunch. So that was really nice. The venues were lovely, and there were plenty of opportunities to tell stories. So as a newcomer, I don't think there was a day that I didn't tell at least one story. So that was wonderful. The accommodation, it began fine. I mean, I had a small issue in that the guys I was in the room with were all chain smoking and I'm an asthmatic. But he moved me into a place where there was no chain smokers and it was fantastic. So I felt we were very well looked after and supported there. And you can't beat the environment we were speaking in. I mean, it was fantastic to be in a real medieval city telling stories. It was brilliant. So that would be my feedback. I would just say get on top of the world record quicker if something like that is. But it was a great focus, and if you can't break a world record every festival because it becomes stale. But that idea of that there being a focus like that, that was wonderful. And if you can come up with something else to be the focus, it gives kind of a center point for everything, so that we all knew that you could go there and listen to a couple of stories. You could go there and meet people. I don't know what else you can do outside of a world record to give that focus, but you're all clever people. I'm sure you'll come up with something. But that would be my feedback. The focus was absolutely brilliant, and you made us feel very welcome. And when I say you, I'm speaking plurally. Collectively, everyone who was involved in organizing this made us feel very, very welcome. And I'd be telling friends, if you're going to Marrakesh, make sure to coincide with the Storytelling Festival because it'll enhance your stay there. So that's my feedback.
And I must give a little background because your arrival was somewhat coincidental. Tony and I had worked together, God knows how many years ago, up in Lapland, where I'd been storytelling and he had been a conjurer, and so we vaguely stayed in touch, like over the years. And I was over in Ireland in the autumn for the Bray Festival, and I did a thing for a
November, I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, November. And Tony had moved to Bray, and so we just arranged like old mates to meet in a pub in Bray. And I said, "What are you doing now, Tony?" He said, "I'm storytelling." And I said, "Well, better come to the festival then."
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, when he said, oh, that'll work because I'm doing this charity walk in Lapland, in the Arctic, and I'd have finished 2 days before. But I kind of think that epitomizes the festival. That's the spirit of the festival as well, because we like to make it open and not in that really closed world of storytelling. I know Mike Russ likes to run his festival like that as well. But thanks for coming, Tony.
I had a fantastic time, John. Thanks. And I will tell the people here, the reason I became a storyteller is that time I worked with John. I could see that John could hold the kids in the palm of his hand, really get their attention, really hold them. And he had nothing except words. And I had all the gear, the silly tricks, the props, the colorful stuff, and the puppets, and John didn't need any of that. And as the years went by, I tried to incorporate what I'd learned from working for 6 weeks with John. and it became more and more a part of my performance. So in the end, I was calling myself magician, puppeteer, and storyteller because it was as important as the other two elements. And then when I got the chance to make my living telling stories in schools, I jumped for it. And if I hadn't met John, I might still be just a standard conjurer. So thank you, John. And it was fantastic
I
to be
like to
part of it.
corrupt people.
Yes, and we could tell them about the way you corrupted us with trade union activities as well, which
That's
really
different.
enhanced our 6 weeks in the Arctic. Trouble.
Great. So just to welcome Chip, who's appeared on our screen while Tony was talking. Hi, Chip.
Now,
How
guys, I want to bow out now because of exhaustion. It was wonderful to see you all again. It was lovely to hear a few stories, and sorry about this, but I'm going to go to bed after 48 hours with just 2 hours sleep. I'm going to bed now. So thank you all, and it was absolutely wonderful, and thank you for letting me be part of it.
Yes.
Cheers,
And
Tony.
good night. See you guys.
Good night.
Bye.
You wish.
Good night.
Cheers.
So yeah, Chip, we've just kind of checked in a couple of sentences, and then we've had a few stories, and now we're on feedback. So don't know if you want to check in and
Oh, he's gone.
oh, you disappeared.
Well, no, I'm here. The reason why I disappeared is because my phone has just reminded me that the cat's medication timer has gone off, so I now need to feed them. But they can wait a minute, because I mean, I don't know if I would feedback anything more than what I heard from Tony saying. I mean, it was just such a wonderful, welcoming experience at every single step, and every time you went somewhere new, you felt like you were still at home, and it was just like being in a group of friends, and you look like you're still there now, Lucy.
Yeah.
But very, very envious of that. Yeah, it's I tell you what, it was quite a come down afterwards. Have people been saying that?
I don't know. I think a few people were kind of recovering from flus and coughs
Yeah,
and colds.
there were a lot of us coming away with laryngitis and stuff, weren't there? But
I think
I mean,
most people I've spoken to have kind of felt the Bahja spirit kind of continuing a bit, but maybe those who wouldn't want to say. I don't know. I'm not sure. Mike, I think you wanted to respond there. Mike Rust.
No, not particularly. I was just saying I was happy to do my bit in it, the feedback and everything else. But I was just thinking, Chip, I don't think we met at the festival because I don't seem to recognise your face. I must admit, but there was 101 storytellers there, so I must have missed you. So I'm sure I don't know where you come from geographically.
I'm based in or near Cambridge.
Oh,
this,
right. Okay.
This house that I am in right now is the former property of Samuel Pepys. So the reason why I'm late to this is because we've just been celebrating his birthday.
Right in your diary.
On Sunday, but we've been having a birthday party today as like a kick-off half-term activity. So yeah, I mean, it hasn't stopped. When I say it was a come down, I think it was like the spirit of it was still with us, still very much with us. But certainly coming back here and suddenly having to try and get back into the general day to day, it was yeah. I mean, I just didn't want to lose touch with anybody, and I kept in touch with a few. No one who's on this call by the looks of it, but kept in touch with a few new friends and old. Have made plans to meet up and keep the spirit of things that started then going, keep the flame going. And I can see that happening all through the year, really. I think it really is like stories themselves, you know, they have an echo. I think it's going to be echoing for a good long time until someone decides they're going to tell the story again, and of course that's going to be the next festival. So it was everything I would have expected and dreamed a storytelling festival to be. And that's another thing. I was dreaming about it for a long time afterwards, and I don't usually wake up remembering dreams, but I was waking up remembering that just like seconds ago I was in Dream Marrakesh with dream storytellers and a dream Riyadh. And yeah, so that's a good sign that it's made an impact when your subconscious is still processing it a good couple of weeks after the event.
Wow, that's
Thank you.
fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. Like that. Amir, did you want to say?
Emer. Actually, my name is Emer. It
Sorry,
rhymes with dreamer. You read it and that confuses you.
Emer the dreamer, I like that. Yeah.
Well, like Chip, I was dreaming for a long time, you know, telling stories in my head and waking up and think, oh, was that a story? No, that was a dream. Then going back into the dream and coming back in and out of it. So it stayed with me a long time. I had a great time. I mean, it was my second festival. I loved the accommodation I was in. Thank you to Mike and Lucy for the Riyadh Spice. The welcome was incredible. The staff, Walid, Mohammed, Zuhair in the hotel. I felt very cared for because I'm very healthy and my knee had let me down the day before. So I arrived with a bad knee. And I was amazed at how everybody who was a volunteer came up to me and asked me after the first day. Thanks to you, Lucy. The word went around. Everybody's asking me, was my knee okay? And I got help to buy a walking stick, and I was fine. And it was just at the very end I needed help on the airport, which was great. I thought the coin system, the token system, was brilliant for the food. It was excellent. I loved going to the schools. I mean, I go work in schools here with the theatre company as a psychologist. And the teenagers here are eye rollers and they're really cool and sophisticated. And students in Marrakesh were just so open and so friendly, and the lovely relationship between the staff, the school principals and the kids, not like what it is at home. Nobody covering their arses, you know, with roll calls. This was all very easy and they were so engaging. It was just such a joy to be in those schools. I really, really enjoyed that. And I would agree with Tony about the marathon. It was great. What an achievement. It was a bit chaotic at the beginning, and I know Veronica did such a big job to pull it all together. So that initial, had it been thought about it, you know, a bit more organized the day before, I think that could have worked better, including have, like, as he says, a list of listeners. I think that would have made it much easier. The only down thing is, and nobody's mentioned it, but it was the post-concert after the end of the marathon in Les Etoiles, just when Fiona and her two French friends were telling, and that was empty, that was stopped. It shouldn't have been placed in that place. It was too long. It was too long for me, but the manner in which it was ended really upset me. Not the what, the how. And I think that would need to be, I think, addressed, because that really upset me. And I was pulled because it was too long for me, the telling, but at the same time I could see the shock on the woman's face. It was a bit much. That kind of spoiled it for me. The rest was incredible. I just loved being in the Medina. I just loved walking through it every day, the people being friendly. There was such, I don't know how you did it, but I mean, it was like trying to include absolutely everybody, created a whole melting pot of events. Maybe there was too many, but then if you want to include, and that's just throwing it up there, when there's so many events to go to, you always have to make choices. And then I think maybe sometimes clashed with the main event in the Medina, you know, with the storytelling event where people were elsewhere doing their stories. However, it gave everybody an opportunity as much as possible to actually tell, which I think is really, really important. I want to come back if I'm allowed. I would like to come back, is what I'm saying.
You're always welcome.
Thank you. You keep saying that, John. You keep saying that. And I had renewed old friendships, and then I met and strengthened those, and then made new ones. And what I loved was actually being in a Riyadh and having breakfast, say, for example, with Eleanor and John, Ron. And then there were other people coming for breakfast in and out. There was, oh God, the names are gone. Usha, and Kungja Day came one morning for breakfast, and there were other people, and that I really, really enjoyed. That ease and chatting. There was a lot of time. I didn't meet everybody, I didn't talk to everybody. Of course I couldn't. You can't. But it was just lovely to be able to have opportunities to chat with people. And because you had the 4 venues for the lunch, I only went to 3. I didn't go to the first one in the end. I think feedback was the food wasn't great, but the Ate was the best one, and I loved the cafe. And I didn't actually make it to the Henna Cafe because my knee I always felt it was too far away to walk. But always when you went into one of those places, you met people. It was that kind of collegiality, that feeling of at home. I really loved it, which is unlike what happens when you go to conferences. I go to conferences a lot, and they're very formal, but this was much easier, much more informal, and much open and much more friendly. So highly recommended, and I really, really enjoyed it. So thank you very, very much. Yeah. Eleanor mentioned the word chaos. So I suppose it was like there was chaos. And from chaos comes order and creativity and new ideas. And I don't mean chaos in a pejorative sense, but then when you have to sift and navigate your way through it, that can be. But I wasn't organizing it, so that was all what G did. So yeah, I speak very, very positively about it. So
I forgot to say how much we appreciated our guide.
Oh,
our wonderful guide, Eunice. We wanted to bring him home with us. We just loved him. And I had no idea we were going to have somebody like that. So that took all the chaos reduced to just a joyful level once we had Eunice with us.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks. And thanks, Emma. Yeah, no, that's really useful. And I think the concert with Fiona et al. Was John addressed that yesterday as well. That was unfortunate, and I think that they hadn't managed to connect with John as creative director to find out the length that was suitable for each performance. But that's definitely something that we can learn from for next time, to make sure that people who want to put on an extremely long session can have it in an appropriate place within the timetable. So thank you for that. We've definitely taken that on board for sure.
Yeah, I must say this in Zuhair's defense. When he pulled it, he had given a warning 5 minutes before, and it was still rolling on well over the 5-minute warning. So it shouldn't have been, it was just an unfortunate set of stuff, but, it was kind of like damned if you do and damned if you didn't when it ran. So, but it was, you hate upsetting anyone. So obviously,
Fiona was very gracious, wasn't she? She was on last night, and I think she was very understanding, and she wanted to speak up and say that it was upsetting, but it didn't spoil her enjoyment of the festival. I think she was really glad that she'd been there, and we really will take on that feedback. It was fortunately there weren't very many situations like that. I know there were some situations that I witnessed where somebody spoke for too long. They told stories for a bit longer than their fair share of the turn, and so it might be that we need to give people clearer instructions as to, don't do a 30-minute story when there's 6 people and only 1 hour to share between everybody. But yeah, we didn't give clear enough instruction, I think, on that. Yeah.
Could I go next, please?
Yeah, yes. Thanks for waiting.
So going back to that particular point, Lucy, and I see Mike Woods and John is here. How long people take to have their story and everything else has been an ongoing dispute since 1978. There are some people that would take longer than they should habitually, and there was other people that were just as polite as anything and will cut their stories short because they know that it's running short and everything else. And what you have to do for me, and what we try to do at our festival, is clamp down on it particularly harshly. And so there's all sorts of techniques. I did suggest we used a shotgun at one point on one person, but that wasn't allowed because it's apparently against the law. But we have a big handbell, or we have a penny whistle, or whichever way that you need to do it. And when it gets to the time allotted, you just start ringing the bell and things like that. And if you clamp down on it at the beginning, everybody understands there's a boundary that you can't go over. I can't see, Lucy, yeah, something like that. That's absolutely right. But if you clamp down on it very early, and I learned this at Whitby Folk Week, that the beginning of the festival, everybody's really strict about how long everybody takes for their piece at the concerts and everything else. And at the end of the week, nobody has to be, because everybody's, and you always get an odd glitch. I've got a couple of things I'd like to say. Firstly, it goes against, everybody should understand I thoroughly enjoyed myself and it was a great time. And I don't want to pour cold water on anything that's happened because I think it was good. But there's a couple of things I picked up on. We went out to do a very posh hotel. And I would guess it's something to do with the fact that I think it was Nan's. It wasn't the one I was in a very posh hotel. I must admit. But it was a one like that. I've got the term I'm using nowadays is a Donald Trump type hotel. It's a very posh hotel with, and we went to do a bar there, and there was a few people sat in the bar, and I would think it was something to do with the arrangements of the festival. They are always giving the festival some rooms and said, come back and do something. We want to support you in that way. And to run a concert in that way is really difficult. It's difficult for the performers. It's difficult for the people who were stood at the bar who they're on holiday. They know nothing about what we do, and they're not really interested in it, and they're just sat there. And I think the way around it is to say to the organisers to send as many musicians as you have on those. And if you send your musicians, because what a musician does is create the space. So if you have a concert like that, and I'm sure we've all done them, where you get sent into a pub or a bar and you've got to do your stuff and use your material, and they're all sat there doing everything else. It's the last thing they want to do is to listen to you, because they've gone there for a meal or whatever. And then what the musicians do is create the space for the storytellers to stand. So I would try and if you're going to do that, and I wouldn't say no, not to do it, because the hotels are appreciative of everything else. I'd just send as many musicians as I could lay my hands on. I'd send them all there and say, can you just do an overture to create the space for the storyteller or the poet or whatever it is. So that would be my one bit of advice. Secondly, the marathon itself I thought was wonderful, and I thought what it did is to give the storytellers a chance to tell your favourite stories. And I know that it's an awful lot of work, and I knew it was in danger at a couple of times of taking over the festival itself. It was almost too big. It was something that was going on and it was taking over the festival. And I don't know anybody else in all my long acquaintances, and I know an awful lot of people who were going to have a go at that record. I think the only people that would have a go at that record would be the Marrakeshans, and who run the festival, to see if you could get it to 100 hours. But and I think it's because of the advertising and everything else, it is worth doing for that. But it did give the storytellers a chance to tell the stories that they wanted to tell, and they couldn't tell in the concerts and everything else because of the time descriptions, and you're there for 6 hours. So I know the current thinking, or I perceive the current thinking, is not to do it again. I would beg to differ. I would actually say that it might be worth having a go at it again to try and get it to 100 hours, or give yourselves a target or anything like that, for those reasons, for what you could say before the festival, what you could say after the festival, and now we've done it, or I say we, Now, I've seen how it works and everything else. I'm sure the organisation could be done better by some very good people. And the other advice for the marathon itself was to put the Arabic speaking, is that the right expression, the local language, the Dasha, I think it's Faza or Dasha, those guys and goddesses,
Malaysia.
because it livened the place up. Pardon?
Darija.
Whichever, yeah, that language. Between about 3 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock in the morning, I just make it that language, because the people were responding to that more than trying to listen to something at 4 o'clock in their second language. And apart from that, those two comments, I think everything else worked remarkably well. I know if you sit in the middle of it, you never nail it. There's always something that's going to go wrong somewhere. And there's somebody who's going to take too long. There's somebody who's not going to turn up. That's part of running a festival, and that's always going to be. And you just have to live with that sometimes. And at some point, someone's going to get upset about something. And whatever it is, it's the job of the organisers to deal with the problem. And that's just part of being it. And that's something you just have to do. It is surprisingly difficult to see what someone's going to get upset about. But they get upset about all sorts of different things. So, it's 9 out of 10 for running the festival. I've never given anybody 10 out of 10, I would like to say as well. Okay. So I don't think there's some things that you've done well. There's some things you could do better. There's some things that didn't go as well as you wanted it to do, but you've seen those and we'll do it again. So on the whole, apart from those two things, I didn't say anything wrong. I saw an awful lot, I'll finish with this, an awful lot of very good people trying to be their very best and try their best to do their best stuff in the best way. And you can't just fault that. And that's happening because of the atmosphere that's been created within the festival, and that comes from the organisers. So well done on that behalf. And yes, please, can I come back again as well?
Well, everyone will get invitation. And I've got to say, well, because we've talked a lot about overrunning, there were 106 storytellers or something, and 90% there was, or probably more, 95% didn't. And I don't think anyone overruns intentionally. It just happens. But it was just the fact that everyone's sort of instinctively got it right. It says a lot for the tellers. So thank you all.
All right. Right. So, sorry, there's one other thing I normally have a list and I haven't got it. We said coming over with us. Yeah. Coming over with us, we brought Iris Skipworth over with us. And she was lovely. I thought she was like a kangaroo. She just jumped around all over the place and everything else. The feedback from her is brilliant in that at her age, and she's probably just 20, something along those lines. And the UK, we struggle for young storytellers sometimes, but over in different parts of the world. So if you can find you can find somebody to run it, Mike, someone how to program it, someone how to organise it, and someone how to raise a budget. Could you just bring a few more young storytellers to all meet in Marrakesh, please? Well, you could do it on a Saturday morning. I'm sure you've got plenty of time, but none of them have got any money. They're all students and stuff like that. But the one thing it really made me smile is I was happily paying, I think the recommendation was 50 dinars to go to the airport and back or something in a yellow taxi. In fact, I got picked up by admin and stuff personally. Irish happily told me that she took a public bus from the square to the airport for 4 dinars. I'm not sure if that was return or if it was one way, which is exactly what students do. It's exactly what students do. And the fact that she got accommodation and fed twice a day was absolutely probably improvement on a normal life anyway. And so it's well worth doing just for those reasons. And the mix of different cultures and different people's skins and everything else at that age is really, really quite strong. So like I said, Mike, I know you don't do anything much on a Saturday morning. I'm sure you can organise that. Anyway, I'll shut up now.
Football matches take place, isn't it, Saturday? I don't think doing it on a Saturday, maybe Sunday.
Yeah, Lucy, you are married to him. I wouldn't mention football this week if I were you. You didn't go very well.
We're going to a match on Friday, so
Lucy was there last weekend as well.
2 matches in 1
Oh, was
week
she?
will be the most I've ever done.
Well, you need to come and watch it's the different shaped ball. It's on Saturday.
Rugby.
We're
I
playing
might give that a
Scotland, I
miss.
think.
I might give that a
Yeah.
miss. Anyway.
Anyways,
Thank you, Mike.
I'll be
That's
quiet
really
now.
helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. Really, it's really great to have, you know, especially from those people who've organized festivals before, to have the wisdom of people who know that EMA has also organized festivals, and yeah, I'm not sure who else.
But you are the first person, Mike, who said that they would do the Guinness record again. I think
Yes.
we felt overall, you know, we tried our best to stop it from taking over. There were times where it threatened to, but it definitely gave us a huge amount, and our backers and the tourist board and the publicity has been fantastic. But I think our view is that we would, you know, we like the tent, and we like the tent running 24 hours. But the trouble with the Guinness rules is, you know, you can't put music on, you can't have a translator. That, you know, the performance that was so out of place in Les Etoiles would have been amazing in the tent. You know, if it had been scheduled at the right time, it could have run as long as it liked. So, you know, I think we've got other ideas for that space, really, and especially if we let people know well before the festival, I think we'll get people preparing shows and collaborations in the knowledge that they're going to have that stage for it. So I think that's probably, well, for the next edition anyway. Who knows? If we're lucky enough to do a 5th, then maybe it might be back on the agenda. But I think for the 4th, we've got lots and lots of other ideas for the 10th.
Yeah, and one of the things that
and Ellen has just asked a question. Did you get enough surveys back, Lucy? So the answer is you'd like a few more.
I would like a few more so that I can hold my head up in a academically respectable way and say, yes, we had 55 a sample of 55, and yeah, so I think at the moment I've got 48. So if I could go over that magic 50, if anyone hasn't done the second survey, that would be fantastic.
I'm pretty sure I did them both, but I can't guarantee, knowing my lack of facility with WhatsApp.
I can check up and send you an email if you like. If you
Okay, if you need one from me, I will be glad to do one.
Thank you. Great, thank you. Yeah, and just regarding the Guinness World Record thing, I'm pretty sure that Chip wants to do a solo long story event. The previous festival, Zuhair Kazmawi tried to do the longest story ever, but unfortunately he fell asleep. And so I think Chip, is that right, that you're up for doing maybe not a Guinness World Record because it costs an arm and a leg, but an
yeah, I mean, I'd certainly be up for taking part in something like that. Yeah, I was a little bit nervous about saying that this is my idea, but yeah, it's if you have a set and you're able to keep telling again and again and again, for storytellers who want to do that, it could be a great opportunity to see if you can try and get just the longest solo set. I'm not necessarily saying that I would be the one who would achieve it, but it would certainly be a fun thing to attempt.
And I think there's it needs to be organised with some language stuff. I mean, for instance, the one that was in the wrong place in Les Etoiles would have been very good in the square because it was mainly in French, which would be understood quite a lot. Whereas I think a really long something in totally English would be, you know, we'd have to mix it up with the region tales or
I would say
interactive.
the thing that Mike was talking about, you know, having something that is 24-hour, but not necessarily a Guinness accredited thing. It just sounds so much more appealing because, you know, I've told so many stories with a translator, and it becomes as much part of the performance, and it's just so much more enjoyed by everyone, I think, because they're all able to actually understand. I mean, we were doing it the very next day in Seth's portion of the tent space. Yeah, we ended up going to the Henna Cafe afterwards with brand new friends, some of whom were actually from the audience, and some of whom were from among the translators. I mean, you were there, weren't you, Omar? I think. And you know, it was just, you know, I'm still in touch with some of those people who were actually audience members. You know, it was when the magic of the thing really came alive that you saw how storytelling brings people together. So yeah, the Guinness stuff was quite prescriptive and, dare I say, prohibitive of that energy. But it did also show the appetite for the kind of long form story festival. I don't know if you would necessarily have an audience for 24 hours if they didn't have to be there, if there was no obligation to have an audience. So maybe 24 hours is pushing it. But I certainly think, you know, having a crack of dawn to dust of dusk, or whatever it is maybe going to be a good way forward.
I mean, what happened at the second festival when we did have a tent for 3 days and nights there, and the nights they had a really different character. You had a smaller group, often, you know, 3 or 4 people, and it was very intimate and very relaxed. And, you know, bearing in mind you got people flying in from all over the world with jet lag or for different reasons, it was actually quite special. And if it stops for an hour or two, it doesn't matter if you haven't got the pressure.
And there were some lovely intimate ones. I caught the end of a session. This is in the second festival with Amy and Liz together, and that was incredibly special. And that was something ridiculous, like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. And it was tellers just telling it. If anyone else wanted to listen, that was fine. But it was Amy and Liz really swapping stories together, and it was a joy to listen to. So those moments. But well, is everyone's thrown in their bit, haven't they? So, Omar, have you got any suggestions?
I think Mike wanted to say something. Mike Faculty.
I did, if that's okay.
Oh, sorry. My horrible face is over your block, so I should.
It's got to be a blessing, isn't it? All I was going to say was I thought, from what Mike explained at the time, there was a real spin-off benefit from doing the world record thing of being able to give money to local charity to provide people to sit there through the night, so that we were actually doing a bit of good for a local charity at the same time as we were getting our world record. And I really liked that. I thought that was a really good thing. I hope that was legitimate. I hope I haven't gone and spoiled everything.
No, not at all.
That's cool. I didn't know that, so that makes it even more awesome.
Yeah, well, some of our listeners were paid, but we did it in a smart way via the local authorities. So apart from anything else, we started paying people. It would have been created chaos. It would have been unmanageable. We did it through. There's somebody called the Mockadem, who's the like local, somewhere between a beat bobby and a sort of administrator, and so he found us families that were in need of money, and so that's how we plugged 1 or 2 of the gaps at the tightest times.
But it's a wonderful way to do it. It worked. You're doing good at the same time.
It really did work. Yeah. And being there at 4 o'clock in the morning is the night I did it, I found it quite interesting just to see how the whole place worked, how the square quietened down and everything else. So there's no way I'd have been normally around at 4 o'clock in the morning. I must admit, not nowadays. No, yeah. But it is interesting the comments that you were making, Mike.
Well,
and I do take that on board.
It's
Taking out the framework of it. So yeah.
It's artificial. A lot of what the Guinness rules, they're just silly. So things like, you know, we were stopping during, we found a way of stopping during the call to prayer. It would have been completely culturally inappropriate to talk over the call to prayer, you know. And Friday prayers, really, we should have stopped for an hour and a half on Friday, out of respect for the fact that it was, you know, it was prayer time, not least because we're under the high patronage of His Majesty the King, you know. So, and Guinness wouldn't let us do that. So there were some real, it created a lot of tensions, really. But anyway, apart from anything else, it cost. Well, fortunately, the tourist board paid it, not us, but it cost £10,500. You know, we've got better things we can do with that.
Yeah,
money.
you did tell me that.
We've got better things to do.
But
with
on
that.
the other side, yeah, on the other side of the coin, though, the publicity that it's created just because of that is gone, you know, and I'm sure the King would be absolutely delighted. That I'm sure someone's told him. So
Yeah, well, he's got the certificate, mate. I sent it off to him a couple of days.
Oh dear.
I had no idea there was a cost, and you say 10.5. Are you talking about pounds or what?
Pounds, yeah.
Cripes. Who benefits from that? Why would people ever want to?
Guinness, it's a commercial organisation.
It's a yeah. I mean, but it was, you know, they did. I think they earned it. To be honest, I'm not sure I would like to do. You know, I don't think it's hugely. I think there's a lot of profit in it because you've got to verify that it actually happened, haven't you? You know, and they laid out their rules. I don't know. Anyway, it is what it is. They flew somebody in, and there were lots of preparations as well as the eventual adjudication and so on. But yes, it does cost money.
But the coverage for the tourist board would have cost hundreds of thousands of pounds rather than 10,500. So there's a huge.
So have you had any feedback from them, Mike? Have they told you what they think?
Well, we'll do. The thing is, the media, we haven't had a lot of national media. It's been like a mosaic of local media coverage because of the way we did it. We did it relatively late, so the big numbers will be things like BBC World Service. We had national news in Canada. I think Argentina, but
Argentina's had, you know, I think she's flooded Argentina. I think we've taken over the Argentinian media.
Yeah, so there's work to do on that. We'll prepare. Noel and I are working on a report really to pull all that together. But it was what can I say? It was always going to be good for publicity, wasn't it? Are they happy? I think so. Yeah, I mean they were one of our main sponsors last time as well. They paid the dinner as well as the paying Guinness. They paid the lion's share of the gala dinner on the last night.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But they also helped me with arm twisting. So the hotel rooms are given free by hoteliers, but the fact that the tourist board are, you know, sponsoring it. Anyway, I'm far too deep in the you know, logistics of getting it done. Don't worry about that. Our job is to provide a safe space and let you artists, you know, create the magic in it.
So I've just noticed Chips disappeared. I was going to ask him if he had any more feedback. Evita, I'm not sure if you're in a position to give feedback now. I know we spoke yesterday, but you're very welcome.
I can try if the little man lets me have a little talk. Otherwise, I just have to burst into story. That sometimes seems to calm him down. Yes, I mean, I said a lot yesterday. My feedback was how fantastic it was, how the chaos was just so delightful for me. And actually, I have a question to you, John, Lucy, and Mike. How are you so unflappable? Like in all this chaos and people complaining and or panicking and asking, and you just smile and give answers as well as you can, and you really
Bahja,
incorporate the
Bahja.
go with the yes, absolutely. And like yesterday, I just can't stop rabbiting on, and I hope Omar tells everyone, the young volunteers, because I heard a rumor that artists are not going to be put up in that hostel again because it's very basic. Please, when I come back, let me stay there. It was just wonderful. I got told off by one of the ladies that made us breakfast because I was walking around barefoot. She shook her head and brought me some thongs and said I couldn't do that. So she was mothering me.
No,
And then
we would definitely. There's no thought that we would not use the Ockhamdem
yeah,
hotel again. It was. I mean, the location was amazing, and it
it
was.
is.
Just, the issue was just matching people to accommodation. So we had some people who thought they were going to like it, who after a day or two it wasn't working out for them. But I think in itself it was amazing. It was great,
And
and there was actually a very, very special atmosphere there.
oh yes. And you know that, but basically that's probably why I'm rabbiting on about the volunteers, because they were there having their meeting. First we thought our bedroom was right on that little courtyard, so we could hear them. After they'd helped everyone and put all the storytellers to bed, they would have their meetings until 2, 3 a.m. organizing the next day. And it was just fabulous, and having breakfast together with them and having jokes. So they became family and we became their family. I'm still in touch with them. It was really, those young people are just amazing. And I'd like to thank you for giving them that opportunity too, to come,
Yeah,
be part of such an event.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And I'm not sure whether they told you, but they had their Riyadh experience the week before, because it was a 2-week project for them, and they actually stayed in Riyadh Star the week, and we looked after them, and they were catered in our, between the 4 cafes that you use throughout. They were looked after throughout, and a week after the festival, they were all from a university program called UMCSP, and I actually went to their end of term event with Zuhair, and we presented them all with certificates, and there was a nice follow-up event about it was the Saturday after the festival that we did it. So I think they've all had their certificates of participation, and
I was there on live video watching.
Oh,
It was so good.
That was an incredible event in itself, actually.
Oh, that's fabulous. That's fantastic. So thank you for putting on this festival. And I've been to different festivals, but yours is really, amongst all the wonderful chaos and the joie de vivre, I found that really the whole subject, the whole theme of the festival came right through everything that we did, whether it was going out to eat, whether it was being driven in the car. It was just always there. I'm still vibing high from it, and made lots of friends and collaborations. Just talked to Jim and Salma and Samantha and Valentina. Like, we've got plans. So it's really wonderful, all the friendships. I can't praise it enough. I think it's my favorite festival so far because of that whole not being so rigid with everything. And school visits, I think, Lucy, you heard that yesterday too. It's probably the highlight for everyone. That is so worthwhile. Anyway, see, don't get me started.
Shut up, Abida.
I think, everybody came to the festival with a spirit of generosity, and, the Bahja, everyone was thinking of the Bahja theme. And I think Maria Gillen did a fantastic job of promoting the concept of Bahja. Although I kept joking with her, she kept calling it Badger. But
Badger,
I think everyone was, there was so much give and take, and people were just full of kindness and
yes,
generosity with each other, and it's contagious. That sort of behavior, when there's one person in the room who's smiling and kind and trying to be helpful, it can disarm anybody who's grumpy. And I have to say, I only came across one or two people who were, having a little grumpy phase. And then pretty quickly, those people seem to just, allay that grumpy feeling that they had and join in with the Bahja that most people were spreading and sharing. Yeah, so I
Oh,
think it was like a joint. It was like a big group Bahja. Yeah.
one thing that I've brought back from the festival too, because I'm the mother of many biological children and others. They range from now 23 right up to almost 50 now. And I said to them, as an Australian, I don't know if it's the same for you people in Ireland and the UK, to spend 9 days, joie de vivre, full Bahja, partying, like there was less sleep every night, partying without anybody, as we say in Australia, pardon my Aussie, shit-faced. So there was no alcohol. I mean, having a glass of wine or something with someone later, that's fine. And I'm not against alcohol, but when you come from a place like Australia and see all these young people Iris's age, and then see all the volunteers of how much joy, pure joy they have, how they dance and everything, they don't need to take drugs and alcohol. That actually was another big takeaway for me. Huge. Like you young people could learn something from these young folk over there.
Davida, I felt that so much at the banquet. We were at a table with young volunteers and Kungjadi, and they were just having so much fun. They were being so charming, teasing her, and the spirit around the table was fabulous.
Yeah.
And there were only two storytellers at the table, but
And me.
and you, yeah. Well, okay.
Before we
And I
finish,
thought people are
can I
having
put
so
a
much
request out to everyone? Following on from something Mike said, it would be great to have more young international tellers there, but the problem is but getting them the funds. Because it's not just, there's built, well, I mean, Chip will know this, although he's not the youngest. But the fare is not so difficult these days, because you can travel with very little. But it's just surviving that week and, paying for the rent at home. And so if anyone knows of my request is, if anyone knows of any international grants that would not necessarily, but bringing artists together, to create whatever it is, to create international understanding or something like that. If we can get a list of that to direct people to, or maybe get a fund of our own, it's just because it would made a real. I know Danny was nearly 40, but compared to me, she was quite young. But just Winston Churchill, and you're quite right, Mike, in this country, but but it made a huge difference to have Danny and Iris there. I think just they just their energy, that young energy, and I'd love to have more at the festival. So yeah, Mike's come up with a couple of this country. But if anyone can, big international fund would be great. But
And
I
we
haven't
had
found
some young
it.
tellers, John. We had some young Moroccan tellers. That's already a good start. And an important start.
It's not a problem in Morocco because the resurgence, and the resuscitation of everything. But I'm thinking of, the more young international tellers coming would be really good.
Who is a grant writer here? I know Samantha got an arts grant to come to the festival.
Oh yeah, I forgot that. Yeah,
But
she
she
was
actually paid someone to write a grant. Maybe we could ask her who that person was.
Well, no, I get I know what she got, an Arts Council grant, which is, and that was part of a huge year-long project.
Okay.
of which this was part of. We wrote. I advised her at the beginning of it how to bring the festival into being part of that grant application. But there are ways of doing it. I'm just thinking, there's maybe outside the arts, maybe some international pot for creating international understanding through young artists working together or something.
And resilience, yeah, like building resilience. That's the word at the moment. The
Oh yes,
buzzword.
But is money the obstacle, John, or is it just
yeah. If you
going...
No, I think money's money. Yes, certainly. If we're talking art, the younger artist is not such problem. But say artists between say mid-20s and 40, which there weren't. There's that is because they need. You can't just take an unpaid holiday.
So the issue is more about paying the rent at home than, because obviously we look.
It's a mixture of both, but we can advise on how to get a cheap fare.
Yeah.
It's from most places in Europe you can get there for under 200 quid. Maybe 50 quid even. But I think it's not just that. You've got to take that time out. Some even have regular jobs, and if you haven't, you're
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of ignored the rent, which was when I was doing it at that age. But
Well, the only reason I can do it,
that's why my children have regular jobs, because they don't want to grow up like we did.
I think I've noticed there's kind of a dearth of young people, young storytellers to begin with. There's not that many compared with the older generation. I don't know if it's encouraged within schools or somewhere, but I think
Well, it is a bit, but
many of them in the first place.
I think there's the storytelling scene in this country. We could spend a whole day on that, and Mike has views on that, and he's valiantly attempting to swim against the tide.
The last thing I want to do, John, is to spend all day talking about that. All right.
No, that's right. I tried to let you out of it by saying you have views, Bob. That's it.
So Lucy,
but
but I do think Mike Wood's comment is very prevalent in that it's the way that the festival, now I've been there, I understand it a bit more. Once you get them there, they're okay. They've got somewhere to sleep. They've got food, which is the two main parts of it. And they work, the rest they can work themselves out for, and they just love every part of it. So I think Iris has been pretty much a front runner in that, and asking her what her thoughts are. But she's a student at Manchester Uni in creative writing. And when she asked her, I don't think she asked her professors whether she could go or not. I think she just told them she was going, and they said, well, that seems to be part of it, Fionn Phillips is in her doctor's training. She's second year to be a doctor, a medical doctor. And Elsa is at University of Aberdeen doing a scientific degree of some kind.
Yeah, I was thinking Elsa, yeah.
So and they're the two that we've got in the UK, apart from Danny there. And there's one over in Ireland. And that's why you're talking about this, we're talking about 80 million people odd in the British and Irish Isles. And we're talking about 4,
Yeah, and we got. I mean, there's a few in East Anglia that I'd like to, that are growing.
Same at Fate. I heard a few young stories at Fate, young tellers.
Yeah.
At Feast, in Singapore, there's quite
Fate, not Feast. Fate.
I think sounds like Nona has to go and deliver the baby to the boob.
Okay.
All right. I love you all. Thank you so much.
Well, we're nearly at the
Okay.
end of it. We're
Bye.
nearly at the end of our 2 hours.
Yeah, I have to go in a minute, I must admit. Lynn's
Same
just come
here.
in and
Well,
I
it's
haven't seen
lovely
all
to
of
speak
it.
to you. Lovely to talk to you all.
Okay.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Lucy, for setting this up, and Mike,
Lovely.
You're
as
so
Great
always.
idea.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. And let's all keep in touch. Let's
Lovely.
have more get-togethers.
Yes,
Not
please.
just
Let's
2
do.
years' time.
I think I can say this in public, and probably for the first time. I think we're planning something in October in Wenlock. I think we're going to do something. So and we'll see what comes out of it. But it's not going to be as big or as glamorous. But I think we will try to do something. Okay.
Oh, well, I'm
Anyway,
here.
in Australia.
No, I'm still floating around as a forced pensioner at the moment because of, the pestilence, as John will call it. Because of I lost my job, so now I'm retired, and at the moment I can still afford only just to just float around.
All right. Okay.
So
Okay.
basically couch surfing, homeless, house sitting. So it's really because I'm planning on hanging around here a bit.
Great.
Right, well, there's plenty of work
Switzerland.
as a
Did you say you're
storyteller. In the UK,
Switzerland?
there's plenty of work to be done. All you got to do is go
Cool.
and find it. There's plenty of work.
And if you want to hole up somewhere for a while, I've got a place in Romania you can go and hole up for a
Ooh,
minute.
that sounds excellent.
Up
Well,
in
anyway, I'd
Transylvania.
love to, and I'd
Well,
love to
I'll
come.
get in touch with you about that anyway.
Anyway,
Well,
I'm
Right.
going to have to
It's a
go.
lot.
I'm sorry to have to go. I know I've said my piece,
Bye,
but I'm
Mike.
going to
Yeah,
have to
I
go.
have to.
Okay. Good. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Hey,
There you
Thank
go.
Bahja.
you, everybody. Thank
I'm going
you.
to ring you in a minute, Lucy.
Okay, great.
Okay, bye.
I'll stay on here then.
Okay,
Oh,
bye-bye. Good night.
we
Night.
might as well stay on this.
Well, if you want to broadcast your conversation on Facebook, you stay here.
Oh.
No.
Okay.
No, well, I'm going to ring you.
Okay.
I'm going to WhatsApp you, Lucy.
Yeah, okay.
Good night.
Cheers then. Bye.
Eleanor. Bye, Ron. Bye, Omar. Oh, Omar's gone. Waleed. Bye, Waleed.
Waleed, thanks, Waleed, for
Bye,
flying the
and
magic
thanks.
carpet as always.
This is lovely to be with you all again. Oh.
Thank you. Thanks.
We really haven't left Marrakesh.
We'll come back anytime.
Ask our friends. They'll tell you we're insufferable.
Okay, bye bye.